Before we start, anyone who has a phone, please turn it off or turn the volume off. Mizmor LeDavid. Adinoi roi le'eksa b'nois deshe yabitzeni. Al menuchas yinaleini. Nafshi yeshovi yancheni v'maglei tzedek l'man shemoi. Gam ki yeleg begeitz al moves le'iro ro ki ato imodi. Shivtecho mishantecho hemo yenachamuni. Tarek lefonai shulchan neged zereroi. Dishanta v'shemen roishi koisi revoya. Achtoi v'chesi yifuni kol yemei chayoi. Vishavti beveis Adinoi le'orech yomim. A psalm by David. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall lack nothing. In lush meadows he lays me down. Beside tranquil waters he leads me. He restores my soul. He directs me in the paths of justice for the sake of his name. Even if I will walk in the valley overshadowed by death, I shall fear no evil, for you are with me. Even your rod of affliction, and your staff of support will comfort me. You prepare a table for me even before my oppressors. You have anointed abundantly my head with oil, and my cup overflows. May only goodness and kindness pursue me all the days of my life, and cause me to dwell in the house of the eternal God for the length of all days. Mizmor LeDavid. Adinoi mi gor ba'alecha, mi yishkoin b'har kodshecha. Hoylech tomim ufoyel tzedek, v'doive emes b'levavai. Le'rogal al l'shoinai, le'oso l'reihu ra'a, v'cherepo le'nosa al krevei. Nivzo be'enov nimos, ve'es yirei Adinoi yichabed, nishbo l'hora v'lo yomir. Kaspe le'nosan b'neshek, v'shochad al noki lo'i lokach. Oise eile lo yimoit le'olam. A psalm by David. O Lord, who may abide in your holy temple, and who may dwell upon your holy mountain? He who walks blamelessly, acts justly, and speaks truth in their heart, who has no slander on their tongue, and has done their fellow man no evil, who has brought no disgrace by their deeds upon their relative, and whose eyes a despicable person is abhorrent, but honors those who are God-fearing, who does not change their oath, even if it is to their own detriment, who does not lend his money at interest, nor accept a bribe against the innocent. He who does these things shall not falter forever. Eishes Chayil, a wife of excellence, who can find? Far beyond gems is her value. The heart of her husband trusts in her, and he shall lack no gain. She treats him with goodness, never with evil, all the days of her life. Her hand is stretched out to the poor, and her hands extended to the needy. Her husband is well known in the councils, and he sits with the elders of the land. Strength and dignity are her garb. She joyfully awaits the last day. She opens her mouth with wisdom, and the teaching of kindness is on her tongue. She watches the conduct of her household and does not eat the bread of laziness. Her children rise up and praise her husband, and he lauds her. Many daughters have done worthily, but you surpass them all. False is grace, and vain is beauty. A God-fearing woman, she should be praised. Give her from the fruits of her hands, and let her deeds praise her in the gates. Estelle Malka Bas Moshe was born in 1917. here in Cleveland, to the parents of Russian immigrants. She was one of two girls, and her father unfortunately passed away when she was a young girl. Her mother raised her and her sister alone, and they grew up in difficult times, which was, in that era, in the early 1900s and leading up to the Depression. Her mother spoke English very little, and so they spoke Yiddish in the home. And I know, speaking with Estelle many times, this contributed to Estelle's strong Jewish identity, which she mentioned to me frequently, about her mother speaking Yiddish to her, and I would always see that how when she would talk about that, the Jewish connection in her would light up when she would start talking about her mother and how she spoke Yiddish and the Yiddish things they discussed together. She married her dear husband, Bill William Paris, shortly after high school. She was about 19 years old at the time. And he was her childhood sweetheart. They were neighbors. They grew up and they lived in the same building. And they shared, ultimately, 72 years of marriage and 5 children together. Marcia, Laurel, Michael, Susan, and David. Bill, and we spoke about it, I spoke with her at the time of Bill's funeral and other times. Bill was the best person and friend she ever knew. He was like a father to Estelle as well, that she never had because she had lost him, her father, at a young age. He was the love of her life for 72 years. She was a mom, a strict mom. No fooling around, no messing around with Estelle. She was tough, but yet she loved the children very much, and she encouraged them to excel, study hard, and to be a community person, to help the Jewish community and the community at large. She was an intelligent person, very opinionated. She made it exceedingly known, and many times in the classes when she was attending with me weekly, she would make clear her views on things. She learned to play piano as a young person growing up in those difficult times. And she inspired Gabriella, her great-granddaughter, to carry on that pursuit to play piano as well. She practiced what she said to her children. She practiced helping in the community. And this, as a young married couple with 5 small children in their house, small house, and her mother as well, they sponsored and helped take in the Zelwyn family who had come just shortly from the U.S., from Europe, and stayed and lived in their house for almost a little less than a year. They really put themselves out to help them. She and Bill would celebrate often. It was very important to Estelle, the Jewish observances of the holidays. She would go in the holidays and the years, even after Bill's passing, would go often to Marcia and Mel's to be there with them and the grandchildren for the holidays, to spend together with them. And this was very important to her. Estelle created friendships and associations which were very important to her with all the rabbis and their wives, the Rebbitzins, that she encountered. Rabbi and Rebbitzin Kazin were a very big part of Estelle's life, and especially with Rebbitzin Kazin. They were like buddies. They spent the time talking together, and much was shared between the two of them. And the Alevskys also, especially Mrs. Devorah Alevsky. Her classes she attended weekly, and she also hosted the classes often in her own house. And she attended regularly my classes, and she hosted them as well. Being part and connected with her Yiddishkeit, with her Jewishness, was a very important thing to Estelle. I know, and she told me many times, how she wished and she wanted so much for her children and their families to be connected and relating to their Jewishness. It was something very important to her. She's maybe not always saying it, but it was a very, very major part of her, and she shared that with me many times. Estelle just turned 99 years old around 2 weeks ago before her passing. I remember talking with her once about longevity. Estelle, you look great. You know, it's unbelievable. Nobody would know how old you are. You look fantastic. What's the secret? We used to have these open discussions. And she said to me that she always ate organic and healthy foods way before it was ever in style. When she told me that, when she said organic, I didn't even think that she would know what organic foods were. And she told me that she was eating it before anybody else was ever doing it. We spoke about relationships. We spoke about her marriage with her dear husband, Bill. And she used to tell me, I remember one thing that stood out. She said to me it was normal. We had our differences, we had our arguments at times, but we always made up. And it was always very great after we made up together. I'll never forget that. It was such a great lesson to me, how important it is. You know, relations is real. But she said we always made up, and it was always very wonderful afterwards. She was an amazing woman, always in good spirits. Estelle was always in good spirits, always full of life, and she always had the drive that was there, and her regal demeanor that she had. Estelle was a classy lady. She had this regal demeanor about her. And what was even more amazing, how she overcame the West Nile virus in her late years. I mean, who got the West Nile virus in Cleveland? I don't know. And when I heard she had it, in the years, the age that she was at the time, I think she was in her 80s when she had it, and she beat it, it was astonishing. It was astonishing. It's a testament of the tremendous strength that she had as a person. Marcia being here and other family members that were here in Cleveland throughout the years were able to fulfill a mitzvah of kibud aim, of honoring your parent, honoring your mother. And in the later years, I have to say, Marcia was incredible. Marcia did an outstanding job, an incredible job. The mitzvah that was provided for her to be able to take care of her mother and be there for her all the time was incredible, and it's something admirable that everyone should learn from, as well as the other family members. There's the grandchildren, and they were also helping all the time to help out Estelle. And Michael came in the latter years here, and he participated in that as well, to be there to help his mother at that time. You know, Estelle mentioned and made references to her own mother to me many times. And I think it is valid to say that there was a very, very conscious connection, appreciation, respect she had for her mother all the time. She may have not have verbalized it or articulated, but I think it was a consciousness, a connection that was there all the time. And this is a form of respecting one's parent. The kibud and honoring parents is not only when they're alive, it's also when they leave this world. There's also the mitzvah, kibud aim, kibud ava aim, afterwards as well. A person thinking about their parent all the time and feeling that connection, that love, this is a certain honoring of one's parent, not forgetting them, remembering them, keeping that connection. And I think this mitzvah was a special thing for Estelle. The Torah tells us the reward for this mitzvah, that one will have long years, longevity. It's one of the few mitzvahs in the Torah that the Torah says the reward for it, that one will have longevity. And I think this contributed to Estelle's great longevity. Long life reminds us and connects us with the previous generations. When anybody's going to hear or see or meet someone that's 90, 99 years old, 100, and Mel, we were talking about, he was waiting to celebrate our 100th birthday. There's an immediate connection with the past. You can't help it. It makes one think about the previous generations, where they came from. And even further than that, of the greatness that there was to connect in the previous generations, their wisdom, their values that they had. One of the reasons for the mitzvah of honoring one's elder, the Torah tells us, is because they were closer to the Sinai revelation. And for that alone, they deserve respect. They were closer back to the source. We can sometimes forget what this is. We forget where we came from. The giants, the Sinai revelation, the great patriarchs and matriarchs that was in our lives, the history of our ancestors, where we all came from. We forget it because we're preoccupied with the times we live in. But we need reminders. And Moses is doing this now in the book of Deuteronomy, Devorim, that we're reading now. Moshe is speaking to the Jewish people to remind them of the generations of past. Yemei Olam, where we all came from, to stir up the people to connect to the values and the wisdom of our ancestors. Our elders and our family and our community, their possessing long life is a proclamation, an announcement, a reminder of where we all came from. This is for all of us to rededicate to the ways of our holy ancestors. And this for sure is something that Estelle wanted. Esther Malka Bas Moshe wanted this very much. I know this. So I wanted to say when I first started I was going to keep my remarks short, so I'm going to stop now. Some of the family members are going to speak. Michael, come up.
Let me get my glasses and my notes. Take a look. First, let me thank the rabbi for his wonderful remarks in covering so much territory. It reduces my remarks considerably. And I'm very happy that you brought to life the younger Estelle Paris. But first, let me thank everybody for coming. I'm very happy to see that so many people have come. My mother, who never minded being the center of attention, would have been very happy to see so many people in attendance today. So on her behalf, I thank you very much. Yes, it's true. She was the matriarch, and she lived a wonderful life of 99 years. She was my mother, many of your friends, great-grandmother, great-great-grandmother. But more than that, I think, as the rabbi pointed out, she would want to be remembered as a true citizen of the world, because, as the rabbi pointed out, she was a very bright person. And as he pointed out, being born 99 years ago into a situation that was not the best. They didn't have a lot of money. She didn't have a father, but she was able to excel in school. And miracle of all miracles, without even having a nickel to buy a 5-cent phonograph record, she was able to teach herself how to become a fairly accomplished pianist, which was a passion passion that she maintained all her life, and I suppose genetically passed on to not only Gabriella, but my sister Marcia, my niece Sharon, and Aaron as well, and a few others that I'm probably leaving out. In any event, that piano, which she played for many years up until her 90s, is now in the hands of Gabriella, and that tradition, and can I use the word karma here, will also be carried on for generations to come. Just a couple other words. She met my father, Bill Paris, when she was a teenager, and as the rabbi pointed out, that romance lasted 75 years. It was quite a romance, and I think it was probably the most significant part of her life. And a few of you who are sitting here today are a result of that romance. So it was a good partnership. It was a partnership. He was more intuitive, she was kind of academic, but we learned good lessons. And two of the most important lessons were stand up for what's right. You don't have to listen to what the TV says. Stand up for what's right and help others. Be a part of the community. Both of which they acted out indeed. Helping the Zellman family when they came in. What a wonderful experience that was for us. An eye-opener. I was 5 years old. I didn't know anything about Nazi Germany. And the Zellmans remain friends to this day, every one of them. So that was a wonderful experience for us. But she was different in other ways. I mean, other families weren't taking in people from Europe. As a 5-year-old, why do we have to do this? We make these sacrifices because they're not sacrifices, it's just doing good. And you stand up for what doing good is. Similarly, the rabbi pointed out that she was into health foods. She read a lot of books. My friends used to come over, no Coca-Cola in the refrigerator. I'm looking at Jeffrey now and Bill, who would complain. Health food peanut butter has the consistency of wet sand. We're not coming over anymore. But she was ahead of her time. Betty Friedan, equal rights for women. Who even knew? Nicotine, the cigarette executive. She was way ahead of her time. And 20 years later, when they were all called to testify in front of Congress, she was proved correct. Yes, she was strict, but she stood up for what she believed, and that was a tradition she passed on to us. So I just want to say one or two other things in passing. In closing, I'm looking around. The last couple years of her life were made infinitely more comfortable and warm and feasible for her because of two people, Dee Cochran and Stephanie Crowell, who were consummate professionals, but more than caretakers, they were her friend, her companion, and the love that they gave her really made her life of 99 years complete. She was with it to the end, and for that I want to thank them especially. So I thank you all for coming. I'm glad to see you all here, and with that, I'm not sure, is there anybody else? Elisheva? Yeah. I see you pointing, but I can't see who you're pointing to. Sharon? Okay. Yeah, Sharon's terrific. Okay.
And nobody, yeah, this was very well organized. We just decided. Thank you all for being here. I find that I really can't feel sad today. I feel happy that I'm able to have a reason to be here with all of you to celebrate a really incredible life. We should all be so lucky as to weather the storms of the 20th century, raise a family, be alive to see 3 generations beyond our own, enjoy all of that, and take our last breath in our sleep. It's a blessing, and it's an example to all of us. Nanny, because I can only call her Nanny, and we called her Nanny because most of you here probably know she was Nanny because when my mom got married and had kids, my grandmother was way too young to be called Grandma, so they came up with Nanny and Poppy, and they have been Nanny and Poppy to the next 3 generations who came afterwards. And they kind of, we think of them as a pair, Nanny and Poppy, even though Poppy's been gone for a while, but they are, I can tell you for sure, both of them among the favorite people on the planet to all of us in our family. Both of them. But Nanny's life is a reminder of how to live a good life, how to live a great marriage, how to live a life of values, and to keep perspective on what's really important. I live in Hollywood, and so that's a really good thing to have in my background. Nanny was a feminist before there were feminists, and it is somehow a nice irony to think that she lived to the year when we're probably going to have the first woman president in this country. I think she'd be happy about that because she didn't need anybody to give her permission to have opinions. She didn't need anybody to give her permission to be the woman who she wanted to be, and a full thinking, acting, and opinionating member of society and the family. You did not cross her. But mostly for me, and I think for my siblings, and I hope I'm speaking a little bit for our generation, Nanny was just this incredibly warm presence in our childhood. And, you know, you just carry that through your whole life. And when I was growing up, our house was in walking distance. Actually, our house is still in walking distance of her house for many years. But when we were growing up, she and Poppy lived within walking distance, and my mom used to let us walk back and forth. We used to have sleepovers all the time, too, which was also an enduring gift that we had because they'd pull out the couch and unfold this really creaky bed, and then she'd come in and sit on the end of the bed and crack every one of your toes while she would tell you stories. Raise your hand over there if you do not crack your children's toes. Till today, every single one of us crack our children's toes. I go running after them. And they're like, no. I'm like, yeah, Nanny did it. So, and she would just tell stories. She was always so proud to show us pictures of our parents and our aunts and uncles growing up. And so we felt like we were very much part of that family. One story, and she was always criticizing my mom's food choices. She would walk into my mom's kitchen and look at something she baked, and she'd say, mercury, or, Marcia, you have to get rid of that horrible, what was that butter substitute? Nobody uses it anymore. Not margarine. Crisco. Oh my God. She'd come in, she'd just get very upset. And she once told me a story how she loved eating just simple food. So she loved rye bread, and she told me, remember when she would always pick up the little bits of, in the rye bread, what do they call it, cardamom, or the caraway. And it turned out to be ants that she was eating. Actually, was picking them up off her thing. One of my favorite memories of Nanny that tell me how she just remind me of what a great role she played in our lives growing up was one of those times when I was maybe 7 or 8, and I walked over to her house from my parents' house, and she would always have a treasure trove of things to play with, costume jewelry, and they always seemed so precious, and she would she gave me one. It was like an old brooch or something. And I remember I held it, skipping home, thinking probably my head was in the clouds. And when I got home, it was gone. I'd lost it. I don't know how I did. And I was in floods of tears because Nanny had given me this very precious gift from her jewelry box. And I remember walking back, staring at the sidewalk for this endless walk of how I was going to go back and try and find it, and then finally admit to her that I had lost this precious piece of jewelry that she had given me. When I got to her house and I told her, she smiled, and she just went back into the jewelry box and gave me another one. And I think we all have a lot of Nanny's mementos because they were important to her. So the only thing I want to say finally is, as she's here with us still physically, but she'll always be with us in spirit. She is a huge presence in my life, throughout my life, and I haven't been able to spend a lot of time in Cleveland in recent years, but she lives so fully, and she and Poppy both, I have to say, live so fully in our hearts and in our spirits, and I know that I speak for my siblings when I say that. So thank you, Nanny, for everything you gave us. We love you. We loved you. We feel the love that you gave us for 99 incredible years. And I want to thank you, Nanny, for giving us my mom, who's an incredible person, who is a shining example of the values that she represented to you. And you gave them back fully every day to her in the kind of love and generosity that is not just a mitzvah, as the rabbi pointed out, but a monument that we will all remember for the rest of our lives. Thank you, Mom. And we love you, Nanny.
So that was a granddaughter. Now I think we have one of the great-granddaughters. And a great-grandson, too?
Hello. I'm a little short. It's okay. Estelle Paris, or Nanny, as she's known to so many of us, was an incredible woman. Loving, strong, extremely opinionated, which I think we've all inherited, at least the women, I don't know. But most of all, she was a true matriarch. Having been able to grow up with great-grandparents was always very special for me. And anyone, if I was walking down the street with her, anyone, oh, your grandmother, she's so sweet. No, she's my great-grandmother. They were always in awe of her youthful energy. I think I can speak for the 16 grandchildren, or 16 great-grandchildren, and 5 great-grandchildren, great-great-grandchildren. I'm missing, that's how many there are. It's beautiful. She got to meet the 5 littlest ones just a few times. But I think that I can say we were so lucky to have them so present in our lives. Like Sharon said, they were just a walk down the block for most of us. Some of our memories, ranging from Shabbos meals and visits that lasted for hours on end, picking tomatoes in their garden, trips to Acapulco with the Waxman family, which I've heard very funny stories about. The yellow room with all the newspaper cutouts and comic strips. Her piano concerts of her Italian songs, Besame Mucho and all the like. And her encouragement for us to learn how to play, which only a few of us decided to pick up on. She and Poppy exemplified what true love really means. She always had a knack for words and rhymes, always writing personalized poems for birthdays and special occasions. We'll never forget all of her beautiful life lessons, the value of $1, the difference between loving and being in love, never wearing dark nail polish, and of course, never going to bed upset. She always used to say that her and Poppy never went to bed upset. What did he used to say?
I don't know about you.
I don't know about you, but I'm going to bed. Her house was full of family portraits, and most especially pictures of Poppy at every turn. Her love and devotion to family was very apparent in her daily life. Nanny had such a young personality that her best friends ranged from toddlers all the way to adults, and everyone enjoyed chatting with her. We loved taking walks to the mailbox just to drop off a letter or two, just to lengthen our stays and conversations. We'll never forget her songs, and we'll continue to pass them on from generation to generation. We love you, Nanny. Miss you very much. May we merit to live a life so full of joy and love like Nanny.
So I wanted to share a few thoughts and memories as well. Nanny's biggest compliment was that for a moment there you looked like Poppy. Menachem has it lucky because he always looks like Poppy. I don't have much to add. I think that Michael, Sharon, and Elisheva have represented all the generations very well. But just to maybe sprinkle a little on top. And Annie and Poppy wouldn't mind sprinkles with their ice cream anyways, especially Poppy. A few values and memories that really stood out to me, and I'll keep it brief because I know it's been long. One of them was simplicity. To me, what really stood out about Nanny and Poppy was their happiness with what they had. And I think that was a really important lesson for our entire generation. The value of just, I remember something that stands out to me was she had a swing in her backyard from the tree. And I think that swing moved from house to house somehow. And I remember asking her, like, at one point when I was a young boy, like, what made her happy? And she was like, oh, I have that swing in the backyard, and sometimes I'll just sit on it. And she's like in her 70s. And, like the wind going through my hair makes me think I'm on the back of a motorcycle. I was like, David's motorcycle? So maybe she didn't mind motorcycles that much. But the idea that a swing in your backyard is what makes you happy, and today what we do to try to attain happiness, I think we could try less and be happier with what we have. That was one lesson that Nanny really, I think, exemplified. And something that really stood out to me from a young age was her value of keeping the family connected, because by the time I was born, she was 70 years old, and we're talking about great-grandchildren. And she would take me and my sister Rachel out for dinner with Lauren and Dana when we were, I don't know, maybe like 12 or 13 years old, to Abba's restaurant, if anyone remembers that. Cleveland could use a few more kosher restaurants. I just came in from New York, and that's my plug for kosher food in Cleveland. But I remember from a young age, she was constantly trying to keep us connected with our relatives, Martina and Zachary, who lived out on the West Coast. And she was always, oh, did you see the latest picture of Zachary and Martina from their trip to here? And whenever we were in town, making a point to bring us together. To me, that really stood out. And I think that another reason why she would be happy today, besides for everyone here in attendance, is that she got us all together. So I think that was something which stood out to me, and something which maybe we need to reinforce, given the fact that our family is growing and spreading out, and it's hard to always be together. But I think she'd be really happy, like, if we went out to Abba's afterwards, but it's not there anymore, guys. And then everything else was pretty covered. I mean, she was an amazing great-grandmother. I feel really lucky. I'm turning 30 in the next week or so, and I feel blessed and lucky to have had her in my life for so long, that she got to know me, my wife, my children, and we got to spend a lot of quality time with her, and I feel blessed and lucky that we all had that opportunity. I was actually here last week and went to see her and even got to speak to her and connect for a few moments. So I'm happy to be here again with the family, and thank you all again for coming.
Okay, we're good. Okay. No. Okay, Molly. Could everyone stand for the memorial prayer? You want something? You have? You good?
We'll translate after this, right? Huh?
You good? Okay.
We'll translate.
Just a moment.
El molei rachamim shoichein meroimim hametzei menucha nechoina al kanefei ashchina b'ma'alois hagdoish mutohoirim kizohar Horokia Mazirim Es Nishmas Esther Malka Basre Moishe Shealcha Le'olamo Ba'avor Shenad Vutzdaka Bi'adaskor As Nishmasa Began Eden Tehei Menuchasa Lochein Malo Rachamim Yastireo B'Sefer Knafav Le'olamim V'Yitzra'el B'Tzra'el Achayim Es Nishmasa Adonai Yonachalosa V'Sanuach HaMishkava B'Shalom V'Noemar Amen.
O God, full of compassion, who dwells on high, grant true rest upon the wings of the Shekhinah of the divine presence in the exalted spheres of the holy and pure, who shine as the resplendence of the firmament, to the soul of Esther Malka Bas Moshe, who has gone to her eternal rest. For charity be donated in her remembrance of her soul. May her place of rest be in Gan Eden. Therefore may the Almighty shelter her with the cover of his wings forever, and bind her soul in the bond of life. The Lord is her heritage. May she rest in her resting place in peace, and let us say, Amen. Everyone may be seated. The interment will be in Mount Olive, and the family will be receiving visitors afterwards at the home of the Waxmans, 4411 University Parkway. And Shiva will extend till Thursday next week, and the visiting time, I think, is 2 to 5. 2 to 5 will be the time.